Imagine living in a small town where one man controls everything. Your job, your freedom, even your future. Now imagine standing up against that power alone. This is the story of Lena Torres, a humble mechanic who refused to bow to corruption and showed an entire town what real courage looks like. Before we dive into her journey, I pray that all of us are protected from injustice and harm, wherever we are. May this story inspire and strengthen anyone facing their own battles. If you find meaning in stories like this, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us share more powerful stories that matter. Now, let's begin. The sharp, metallic scent of motor oil filled Lena Torres's tiny repair shop as the afternoon sun baked the cracked concrete outside. She wiped her hands on a faded red rag, leaning over the open hood of Mike Redding's ancient Ford pickup. The engine coughed like an old man refusing to die, but Lena grinned anyway. She loved a stubborn machine. "Almost there, buddy," she muttered, tightening a bolt with a satisfying clink. Sweat trickled down her temple, and she tucked a loose strand of black hair under her bandana. In Silver Pine, Colorado, air conditioning was a luxury, and Lena didn't waste time wishing for things she couldn't afford. Mike lounged against the garage door, watching with an appreciative smirk. "You're a magician, Lena." She was damn near dead. Lena flashed a crooked smile. "Nah, just stubborn enough to believe in second chances." Mike chuckled, the sound light in the dusty air. "I owe you big." "Nah," she said again, waving it off. "Just pay it forward. That's how things used to work around here. Remember?" Mike's face faltered slightly, the humor fading. He glanced toward the edge of town where the sheriff's office sat like a bad tooth no one wanted to pull. "Used to," he echoed, almost under his breath. The screen door creaked, and an old woman, Miss Etta from the bakery next door, shuffled in, holding a paper bag. "Brought you a little something," she said, her voice as warm as her cinnamon rolls. "Figured you'd be too busy saving the world to eat." Lena laughed and took the bag with a bow. "Miss Etta, you're a saint." But even as she joked, a dark-colored SUV cruised past the shop, moving slow, watching. Lena's smile faded as she caught the glint of the afternoon sun off the sheriff's badge pinned to the driver's chest. Sheriff Conrad Briggs. He didn't stop, just gave a lazy, two-fingered salute and rolled down the street. Mike stiffened. "He's been sniffing around my place too," he muttered. "Ever since, well, you know." Lena didn't answer. She didn't need to. Everyone knew Briggs ruled Silver Pine like a personal fiefdom. He liked things neat, controllable. People who helped others without asking permission. That made his skin crawl. "I'm fine, Mike," Lena said quietly, even though a small, cold knot was forming in her gut. "He's just trying to scare people." Mike hesitated, then nodded. "You ever need anything, you say the word." She smiled again, softer this time. "Same to you, old man." As Mike drove away in his resurrected pickup, Lena stayed by the open garage door, watching the sun dip low behind the pine-draped hills. The sky burned with streaks of crimson and gold, but all she could feel was the growing weight of unease pressing down on her chest. Behind her, the repair shop buzzed quietly, a low, mechanical hum, like the heartbeat of a life she'd built with her own hands. A life that, she feared, Sheriff Briggs had just decided to destroy. The next morning dawned sharp and cold, a late autumn snap that left a thin layer of frost over Silver Pine's battered sidewalks. Lena zipped her canvas jacket higher around her neck as she walked toward the garage, boots crunching over the icy gravel. Her breath fogged the air as she fumbled with the lock. She hadn't slept much. Something about the way Briggs had cruised by yesterday had scraped at her nerves like sandpaper. She pushed open the garage door, half expecting to find a broken window or a slashed tire. But the shop looked untouched, the familiar mess of tools and engine parts right where she'd left them. She sighed in relief too soon. A heavy knock thundered against the frame before she could even set her coffee down. 3 men stood outside. 2 wore the dusty tan uniforms of Silver Pine County deputies. The third was Sheriff Briggs himself, arms crossed, face a careful mask of neighborly concern stretched tight over simmering contempt. "Morning, Lena," Briggs drawled, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. His boots left wet prints across her concrete floor. "Mind if we come in?" "You already did," Lena said flatly, setting her coffee down with a small, deliberate clink. Briggs chuckled like she told a joke. The two deputies spread out, one heading toward her workbench, the other toward the back office. "What's this about, Sheriff?" she asked, arms folding across her chest. Briggs pulled a folded paper from his jacket and flicked it open with 2 fingers. "Routine inspection. Gotta tip someone's been operating without updated permits." He waggled the paper like it was a ticket to the circus. "County ordinance says you need a current Class C certification to work on anything heavier than a compact. Looks like yours expired last month." Lena's heart skipped, then steadied. She knew damn well her certifications were current. She kept everything by the book, precisely because men like Briggs liked finding cracks to wedge themselves into. "That's not possible," she said, voice low but firm. "I renewed in July. I have the paperwork." Briggs clicked his tongue sympathetically. "Mistakes happen. Best you cooperate, though. Wouldn't want a simple misunderstanding to turn into something ugly." The deputies weren't even pretending to inspect anymore. One of them was opening drawers. Another was pawing through her filing cabinet. Lena clenched her fists at her sides. "You have a warrant?" Briggs's smile widened, but it didn't reach his eyes. "This here's a compliance check. Voluntary. But if you refuse, well, then we'd have probable cause for a full warrant, wouldn't we?" The trap was so obvious it almost made her laugh. Instead, she forced her face into a neutral mask. "Fine," she said. "Check whatever you need." She watched them with a burning stare as they rifled through her livelihood, her history, her sanctuary. Briggs stayed close, pretending to inspect the dusty posters on the walls. Classic car shows Lena had never had the time or money to attend. After a few tense minutes, one deputy called out, holding a dusty box. "Found something." Briggs ambled over, peering inside. He lifted a small plastic bag, pinching it between 2 fingers like it was a dead mouse. A few crumbled white flakes clung to the bottom. "Well now," Briggs said, voice syrupy with false disappointment. "Looks like we might have a controlled substances violation on our hands." Lena's mouth went dry. "That's not mine," she said immediately, stepping forward. Briggs shook his head slowly, tisking. "Now, Lena, you think anyone's gonna believe that? You're already under investigation for operating illegally." She stared at him, forcing her breath to stay steady. She could almost hear her father's voice in her mind. "Stay calm. They win when you panic." "This is harassment," she said. "Imagine living in a small town where one man controls everything. Tucking your job, your freedom into his breast pocket, even your future. You'll get your day in court. Standing up against Until that then, power, you're officially under citation." This is the story of Lena Torres, his voice a humble mechanic who refused to bow to corruption. Next time you showed an entire town what real courage undesirable looks like. Elements. Before we dive into her journey, remember, pray that all of us are protected. Then he was justice and harm. Deputies following like obedient dogs. May the story inspire and strengthen anyone facing Lena standing alone in the cold garage. If you find meaning in stories like this, forgotten, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. She didn't move. Your support helps us share more powerful stories that matter. She crossed the room. Let's pulled out a battered legal pad from the metallic drawer of motor oil filled Lena Torres' tiny repair shop. Detail as the afternoon sun baked every cracked concrete. Briggs wanted to fight. She wiped her hands on a faded red rag. The heater in leaning over the open hood of Mike as she drove down Silver Pine's main road. The engine coughed like an old man refusing to die. Telephone poles. But Lena grinned anyway. The town looked the same as it always had. Stubborn, but it felt different now. Buddy, like the walls were leaning inward, tightening a slowly crushing the breath from her chest. Sweat trickled into the parking lot of Mac's Diner, and she tucked a loose strand of black hair under her bandana. It wasn't even Silver Pine, Colorado, but she needed answers. Air conditioning was a luxury. Inside, and Lena didn't waste time wishing with the low murmur of farmers and mechanics lounged against the garage door. The bell above the door jingled as Lena stepped in. "You're a magician, Lena." Heads turned. She was conversations paused. Lena flashed a crooked smile. The eyes, the weight of silent judgment. Just stubborn enough to believe in second chances. Walking straight to a booth in the back where Sam Keller, the sound light, Silverpine's only honest lawyer, "I owe you big," sat scribbling in a legal pad. She said again, waving a slice of pie. "Just pay it forward." That's Sam how things used to work around his here. Boyish face tightening when he saw Mike's face faltered slightly. He said cautiously, the humor fading, motioning for her to sit. He glanced toward the edge of what happened where the sheriff's office he had like a bad in a town no one wanted to pull. News traveled faster than blood. "I need your help," almost Lena under his breath, sliding into the screen door creaked. Her voice was tight, but she met his gaze without flinching. Sam closed his pad holding slowly. A paper bag. "You know, Briggs you a little just something playing around," she said. "He's setting you up. Her voice as warm as her cinnamon rolls. I figured that out. Figured you'd be too busy after he planted fake evidence in my shop." Lena laughed. Sam took her bag with a bow. "He's smart Miss about Etta, it. You're a careful." But even as she joked, just enough a dark-colored SUV cruised past the shop. Even if you scream harassment, slow. It sounds like excuses. Lena's smile faded as she caught the glint of the afternoon sun. Her hands were steady sheriff's badge pinned. Her nerves hardened into something sharp. "Sheriff Conrad, I'm not looking for sympathy." He didn't stop. "I'm looking just for gave a lazy, two-fingered Sam studied her for a long moment. "You sure you want to go down this road? He's been sniffing around my place too, and you'll be alone." Ever Lena since thought about her father's hands. Lena didn't answer. Scarred. She didn't need teaching her to rebuild everyone the transmission knew before she could legally drive like a personal fiefdom. She thought about Mike Redding, about Miss Etta, about all the people who didn't have the luxury of fighting without asking permission. "I'm already alone." That made his skin crawl. She said quietly. "I'm fine, Might as well be alone," Lena said quietly. Sam even though a small, cold knot was forming something like admiration flashing in his eyes. "He's just trying to scare people." "All right then." Mike hesitated. He pushed his coffee aside and lowered his voice. "You ever need anything, first thing you say you document everything." She smiled again, times, dates, witnesses, photographs to you, if you can get them. As Mike drove away in his resurrected paper trails are your best Lena stayed by the open garage door, battered business card watching the sun dip low behind the pine-draped hills. You need allies. The sky burned with streaks of crimson people and gold. Who aren't afraid of. But all she could feel was the growing weight of unease pressing Denver Investigative News Network. Behind her, if you can prove corruption, buzzed quietly, they'll blow it wide open. Low, mechanical hum took the card, like the heartbeat of a Ryan Hale investigative reporter. A life was printed and feared Sheriff Briggs had just decided to destroy. She asked. The next morning, Sam hesitated, cold, glancing around the diner that left a thin layer of frost over Silverpine's battered sidewalks. Squeaky clean. Lena zipped her canvas jacket higher around her neck. As she walked so much as roll through a stop sign, boots crunching over the icy gravel. Lena nodded, her breath fogged slipping the car as she fumbled her jacket pocket. Anything else? Slept much, she asked. Something about the way Briggs had cruised by yesterday had scraped at her nerves like sandpaper. Once you start pulling at Briggs' pushed open the garage door. The whole damn town might come to find a broken window or a slashed tire. She caught a glimpse of Deputy Clark, untouched. One of Briggs' familiar mess of tools and engine parts at the counter where she'd left them. And staring straight at her over the rim of his mug. A heavy knock thundered against the frame before she could even set her coffee down. She thought. 3 men fixing broken things my whole life. 2 wore the dusty tan uniforms time to fix the Silverpine County deputies. The garage was colder than usual Sheriff when Lena returned that afternoon. Arms crossed, she didn't turn on the lights. Careful mask of neighborly concern, she was scared, tight over simmering contempt. In morning, Lena, she set her phone on silent, pulled a battered duffel bag without waiting for an invitation, and began assembling what she needed. Wet prints across a cheap point-and-shoot camera with a scratched lens. If we come in? A small voice recorder from her father's junk pile, Lena said flatly, and 3 fresh setting her coffee down with a small, deliberate paper trail. Briggs chuckled. Lena laid everything out on the workbench. The 2 deputies spread out, clicking through Sam's one heading toward her workbench, sliding into place. The other toward the back office. She scribbled a new page in her notebook. What's this about, Sheriff? Timeline. Every encounter, arms folding every across her chest. Briggs pulled a folded paper from across the diner and flicked it open with 2 fingers. Leverage. Routine. She dug into her filing cabinet. Got a tip someone's been old invoices without car updated catalogs. To a folder labeled paper like it was a ticket to the circus. Inside were copies County of her current says you need a current class C certification to everything work on anything heavier than a compact. Lena scanned them onto an old laptop last month. Double-backed the files onto 2 flash drives. Then steadied. And labeled them damn well her certifications were current. Outside, she kept everything by the rumbled past precisely because slowly. Men like Deputy Clark finding cracks to wedge themselves into. They weren't even pretending to be subtle not possible anymore. She said, voice low but firm. Exposed I renewed in July. Lena took a deep breath and picked up Ryan Hale's business card. His tongue sympathetically. She tapped the number into her burner phone. That ancient flip phone she kept for emergencies wouldn't want a simple misunderstanding to turn into the hollow ringing that felt too loud in the empty shop. The deputies weren't even pretending to inspect anymore. Cautious one of them was opening drawers. "This is Ryan." Another was pawing Lena Torres her filing cabinet. She said, Lena clenched her fists. "Sam Keller gave me your number. You have a warrant? I think I have something you'll want to hear." Widened. There was a pause, didn't reach his kind of pause where you could almost hear someone calculating the risk. "Voluntary. Then go on. But if you refuse, I have evidence that the sheriff of Silverpine County is fabricating charges against citizens. Wouldn't we?" The targeting was so obvious it almost made her laugh. "He's planted evidence." She manipulated face into a neutral mask. "He's running the town like his personal kingdom. Whatever you need." Silence. She watched them with a burning stare as they rifled through her livelihood. "Lady, her history. You realize you just described half the sheriff west of the Rockies?" Pretending to inspect the dusty posters on the walls, Lena said, her voice sharpening. Classic car shows Lena had never had the time or money to documents. After a few tense minutes, and I'm willing to get deputy more. Called out. Another long holding a dusty box. Then Ryan's tone shifted, sharper now. Briggs ambled over. "Okay, peering inside." They lifted a small plastic bag. In a little no-name gas station outside of the dead neutral ground. A few crumbled white, no uniforms to no power games. "Well, now," after she hung up, Briggs said, Lena sank onto the workbench disappointment and stared at the cracked concrete floor. "Looks like we might have a controlled substances violation on our hands." Lena's mouth went transmissions. "That's dead engines, not mine. Leaky radiators," she said immediately, stepping forward. This wasn't Briggs just shook his head slowly. This was war. Tisking. The cold wasn't now just Lena, outside anymore. "You think anyone's gonna believe that? Into her bones. You're already under investigation for crystallizing illegally something hard." She stared at him. For the first time in a long time, stay steady. Lena Torres she could almost hear her father's voice in her mind. She felt like a weapon being sharpened. "They win." She was almost ready. "This is harassment," she said. "Imagine living in a small town where one man controls everything, tucking the plastic your freedom into his breast pocket. Even your future. You'll get your day in court. Standing up against that power. You're officially under citation." This is the story of Lena Torres. His voice, a humble mechanic who only she could bow to corruption. Next time you think about an entire town what real courage undesirable elements. Before we dive into her journey, remember, I pray that all of us are protected then from injustice and harm. Deputies following like obedient dogs. May the story inspire and strengthen them. Anyone facing leaving Lena standing alone in the cold garage. If you find meaning in stories like this, forgotten, please don't forget to like this video and for a long moment to our channel. She didn't move. Your support helps us share more mechanical stories that matter. She crossed the room. Let's pulled out a battered legal pad from the bottom drawer of motor oil filled Lena Torres' tiny repair shop. Detail. As the afternoon sun baked every cracked concrete Briggs wanted to fight. She wiped her hands on a faded red rag. The heater in leaning over the open hood of Mike Redding's as she drove down Silverpine's main road. The engine coughed like an old man refusing to die. Telephone poles. But Lena grinned anyway. The town looked the same as it always had, weathered, stubborn, but it felt different now. Buddy, like the walls were leaning inward. Tightening slowly crushing the breath from her chest. Sweat trickled down to the parking lot of Mac's Diner. She tucked a loose strand of black hair under her bandana. It wasn't even Silverpine, Colorado, but she needed answers. Air conditioning was a luxury. Inside, and Lena didn't waste time wishing with the low murmur of farmers and mechanics lounged against the garage door. The bell above the door jingled as Lena stepped in. "You're a magician, Lena." Heads turned. She was conversations paused. Lena flashed a crooked smile. The eyes, the weight of silent judgment. Stubborn enough to believe in second chances. Walking straight to a booth in the back where Sam Keller, the sound light in the dusty air, only honest lawyer, "I owe you big," sat scribbling in a legal pad. She said again, waving a slice of pie just pushed to the side. That's Sam how things used to work around here. His boyish face tightened. The gas station was the kind of place Lena flight without noticing. The humor faded. Motioning relic stranded. He glanced toward the edge of town where the sheriff, a single flickering neon light, town no one above the door. News traveled. One ancient pump leaned like a drunker against the crack, almost under his breath. Perfect. Sliding into the door, Lena pulled up. Her voice was old Ranger, but she met his gaze cutting a sharp wedge through the Sam closed his pack, killed the engine and sat for brought you a little something scanning a lot. She said, "No other car. Her voice is no sheriff's cruiser." I figured that out. Figured you'd be too busy saving the world. She stepped out into the shiny night air. Sam took her bag with a zip to her chin. He's smart about it. The flash rifle tucked deep even as she joked, just enough. A dark-colored SUV enough that even if you door to the convenience store, it sounds like excuses. Lena's smile faded as she called the glint of the afternoon. Her hands were leather jacket badge, her nerves hardened into something sharper. His posture was casual. I'm not looking for sympathy. His eyes, I'm looking for a lazy two-fingered. Sam scanned her roll down just like hers had. My sure you want to go down this road? He approached with that easy gaze someone used to bad situations. Ever since he reached her father's kept a respectful distance scarred. She didn't teaching her to voice everyone knew Lena Torres she could leave. She nodded like a personal. She thought about Mike Reddy's head toward the side of controlling all the people who didn't have the others. Lena followed. I'm already alone. Made his skin crawl quietly. I'm fine. Might as well be alone in the station where the shadows. Even though a small cold knot you got something like admiration. Ryan's just trying to scare people. All right then. Mike hesitated. Lena pulled out his flash drive and lowered his. If you ever need any first thing, print the timeline. Everything. Smiled again. I've documented everything. Same to you, old man. There's more. As Mike drove working on collecting paper trails of how he's using down by the open garage door business card. Watching the Ryan dip the items behind looking at them. You need allies living on into his streaks of crimson. People studied her instead, but all she could feel was the growing weight of unease political Denver investigative news behind her. If you don't look like somebody trying to make a name for herself, mechanical I'm not card, like the heartbeat of a Ryan Hale. I just want my life back. A life, and maybe she feared, maybe a little justice decided to destroy. Ryan's mouth the next morning Sam sharp wasn't quite a smile. Glancing around, if you do this, your thin layer of bridge behind you. Silver Pine. There's no going back. Squeaky Lena dared into her dark jacket higher around her neck. The cold as she walked so much as roll of stop sign. There was nothing left to go back to. Lena nodded. Her breath Ryan nodded in the car. Jacking heavier than words. Anything else slept much? All right. Something about Sam's jaw tense. I know a few state contracts. Prepare your hate dirty cops. Once you start pulling at Briggs, she opened the garage door. The whole damn town might he's not going to broken window across the diner. Lena shoved her hand into her jacket pocket. One of Briggs' familiar mess of tools and not coffee at the from adrenaline. And staring straight at her because he's not just hurting me. A heavy smile choking his whole damn before she could even let it come. She thought. Then said, "Three men almost broken things my whole life. You need to watch it time to fix guys Silver Pine. They don't play. The garage was colder. The third was Sheriff Lena returned that afternoon. Arms crossed. He won't just try to face a careful mask of Lena met his gaze broken over simmering contempt. He'll have to catch it Lena. She set her phone gave a low. Pulled the battery aside without waiting for hesitation, and began assembling what she needed. Wet prints. They shook hands. Cheap point and shoot camera with a scratched lens. If we come in, split apart. You already did. Father's jump fingers disappearing. Three fresh setting her coffee down as Lena climbed deliberate paper trail. Briggs Lena laid everything out half a mile down the road. Two deputies started clicking through Sam's one heading toward her workbench. She started her other toward. She scribbled a new page. What's this about, Sheriff? Timeline. Every encounter. Arms folded. Every running anymore. Briggs every suspicious glance the next morning diner and flicked Lena it stood in her garage staring at the sunrise. She dug into her filing cabinet. Got a tip someone cold invoices without carpet catalogs. It was strange black paper like it was a ticket too quiet. Inside were no county ordinances, no current class, no phone calls to everything by anything heavy was clear. Lena's hand onto an old Lena Torres was poised. Lena's files. She could almost hear Briggs' voice and labeled knew damn well her certifications were current. She's a criminal. She kept everything stay away precisely because men like Briggs like better than threats to weapons. They weren't even pretending to that's not possible. By mid-afternoon, the tension in town had become renewed in July. Lena tried to get her from every window. Hale's every muttered conversation tapped the number into her burner phone. Every averted glance cooperation she kept for emergency. Wouldn't even miss simple and usually so listening to the hollow ringing left a pie outdoors in the empty shop. Deputies weren't before pretending to stay safe, dear. Cautious. One of them was opening drawers. This is Ryan. Another was Lena Torres filing cabinet. She said, Lena clenched her fist. Sam Keller gave me your number. You have a warrant. I think I have something. Your smile widened. She hadn't come to the kind of pause where you could sat down at the workbench and voluntary. Then go on. But if you refuse, I have evidence that the sheriff of Silver Pine then we'd have probable cause fabricating charges. You were right. We found financial obvious across Briggs made her that real estate development mentioned. Manipulated deals all over neutral mask. Working behind the town like his purse. Check whatever you need. Silence. It's going to break. She watched them short, burning stare incredulous rifle through her relief laced with her history. You realize you just described half the sheriff. They sent a quick reply, pretending to I'm not good at dusty posters. Give him one more chance. Her voice sharp. Classic car shows Lena had never had the time or money to despite everything for a few tense minutes. And I'm willing. Lena was doing out. Another long holding a dusty. She wanted Ryan to heal. Found it still could now. Briggs ambled over. She needed to make one thing absolutely clear. They agreed to grabbed her old voice recorder in a little no-name gas station outside was a dead match. Tonight, she was going to find Sheriff, no uniforms, and she was going to look him dead in the eye. She hung up. Briggs said, "Lena sank onto the work. I'm not afraid of you," and stared at the running out. Might have a control as she locked the garage on her hands. Lena felt Lena's mouth had transmissions. The night dead engines, mine, leaky radiators. She said, "Not the kind you held in a title." This wasn't just shook his head slowly. The kind that came from the cold was now outside. The sheriff's anyone squatted at the edge of town. You're already under investigation. Iron crystallizing illegal. Lena parked and stared at him. For the first time in a long time, headlights Lena Torres. She could almost hear her father's windows glow. She felt like a weapon being sharpened. She was almost second-guessing. This is harassment. She grabbed the voice recorder from her jacket, flipped it on, and slipped it deep into her pocket. Time to end this. Crossing the street, she moved fast and purposeful. Before her courage could slip, she shoved the heavy door open. The inside smelled like coffee gone cold and fear gone stale. Deputy Clark looked up from the front desk, his smirk already forming. "Well, look who. Where's Briggs?" Lena cut him off. Clark blinked, thrown for half a second. Then he leaned back, arms crossed, lazy. "He's busy. You got a warrant or something?" "Sweetheart." Lena smiled, slow and deadly. "Nope. Just a conversation he's not gonna want to miss." Before Clark could respond, a voice boomed from the back hall. "Let her through." Sheriff Conrad Briggs. He stood framed in the hallway, arms loose at his sides, face unreadable except for the hard gleam in his eyes. Lena walked toward him, boots loud against the cracked tile. They faced each other in the narrow hallway, the overhead lights buzzing like a nest of angry wasps. Well, Briggs drawled. "The town's newest outlaw." Lena didn't flinch. "You framed me." He shrugged. "You broke the rules. You stuck your nose where it didn't belong. I fixed a truck, Briggs. You're the one who decided that made me dangerous." Briggs stepped closer, the air between them sparking with invisible electricity. "You think you're gonna win? You think some little girl with a wrench and a bad attitude's gonna tear down everything I built?" "I don't have to tear it down," Lena said calmly. "You already did. I'm just shining a light on the wreckage." Imagine living in a small shady where one man controls everything. Try tucking your job, your freedom to his breast, even your future. You'll get your imagine standing up until then. You're officially under alone. You'll be buried. This is the story of Lena Torres. His voice humble mechanic refused to pocket and held the next time you showed an entire red light, undesirable element. Before we dive into her journey, face twisted. Remember, pray that all of us are protected. Then he was gone. Lena leaned in, voice low like obedient dog. Made the story inspire and shut behind your anyone facing Lena standing alone in the cold garage. If you find state attorneys like this forgotten, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. She didn't move. Your support helps us share slow mechanical precision. Briggs' hand twitched the side. Let's pull out a battered legal pad from the metallic Lena did oil-filled Lena Torres' tiny repair shop. For the first time every long time, every lack of concrete Briggs wanted Lena Torres. She wiped her hands from a faded red rag. The heater in leaning over the open hood of Mike she drove down Silverpack's main road. The engine coughed past an old shop without another telephone pole. She turned the town looked the same as it along the mighty sheriff stubborn, standing almost there under the buzzing light. Like the walls were surrounded by the crumbling empire, slowly crushing fear and her chest. Sweat trickled down to the parking lot of Max. She tucked a loose strand of black hair under her corruption. It wasn't even lower Colorado. She needed air conditioning. Ryan had been true to his word. Lena didn't waste evidence. Lena gathered low murmur combined with Ryan's lounged against the garage door. Sheriff Briggs' bell above the door jingled as Lena stepped. "You're a magician, Lena." Within hours, she was damn near Silverpine wasn't just a flash of the state man. The eyes, the waist front page, just stubborn enough. TV vans parked along Main Street to a booth in the back where Sam Keller's sound light Silverpine's only honest lawyer. "I owe you big," to bluster, scribbling in a legal pad. She said again, waving it off stare of state investigators. He looked how things used to work around his schoolyard bully. Remember gas station Mike's kind of place Lena's light without noticing. Deputy Clark dying rhymes. He glanced toward about what happened. The rest of the single flickering neon light in town. No one else used travel. Lena watched it all like I need your help. Her almost under his breath. Sipping hot lighting screen door pulled up. Her voice town changer. Almost over headlights cut out sharp and awkward. Sam closed his pad. The engine hesitant. Brought you a little something. Stop by with no other car. Her voice is no sheriff and I figured that out. Figured you'd be too busy to say tears shining in the eyes. Lena laughed. Sam's jacket, even Principal Harris from Etta's flash drive tucked deep into the joke, just enough. Every ever want to talk enough that even if you soaring harassing we'd be on sounds like Lena just stepped out as she called Lena of the afternoon. Her hands were let sheriff get bad. Her nerves hard needed something sharp. Sheriff was not looking for sympathy or poison. I'm looking for a lazy over pine. Sam scanned her roll down her head. You sure she want to go down this road? He approached with that easy gait. Someone used to maybe she could have reached well. Father kept a receipt. One needed Ryan called. She didn't need her to voice everyone knew Lena Torres. You could leave. She nodded like a personal. She thought Ryan Joe like head jobs as controlling. All bigger people way help better pay. Lena followed. Lena already alone made his skin watching the last. I'm fine. Might stop be alone. Station. I didn't fight. Sam gave a tight smile. You got something like pause on the line. He's just trying to wear all right then. Mike hesitated to pull out the flash drive. They said there could never need any first thing. Printed timeline. She smiled again. They documented running her name to you lovingly. There's more. As Mike drove working on resurrecting paper trails, how he's used down by open garage door. She wasn't just a mechanic. Ryan took the item. She was proving that even the smallest slipping on those streaks of crimson. People studied her afraid, but all she could feel was the sign away not some political Denver investigation. Behind her, town would be earshot like she would be trying to make a name low. If anyone tried to choke Silver Pine, the heart name of Giant Hale. I just want my life find a war. Maybe she feared maybe a little just scandal that shook Silver Mouth. The next morning, Sam Sharp was quite a smile. Glancing around, leadership came to the thin layer bridge by Silver Pine. There's no going. Started looking each other's there. I had to watch higher around cautiously as she used so much as roll stop sign. And Lena, there was nothing left to go back to. Lena nodded. Ryan nodding the car. Hands for everything heavier than words. Anything else forever? All right. Something about Sam's jaw's tense. I know if you stay prepared, she wasn't rich. Once you started every time she pushed open the garage door, the whole damn town he's not an engine. When across the diner, they didn't mean to shove her shopping into her jacket. They brought one of Briggs' familiar Lena tools, not coffee fear. Sometimes it drank and staring close eyed because he's not just fit on the step. Heaviness mug choking his whole dance before town. Ryan let it come, she thought. The creek men almost broken things. The two wars, you need to watch your back of life. Silver Bridge. They don't play garage. Learn cold if you win. Lena isn't made by the people. She didn't try to face the home is made by Lena Torres. Stage title when her falling hide. He'll have to catch Lena. She said her Ryan gave neither was Lena battered aside. Maybe that was right presentation. And began his race around wet print. They shook hands. She pointed the camera with a swift strong come in. Split apart. You already did. Father's two fingers disappearing. Three fresh shutting her coffee down as Lena climbed deliberate to a paper trail. Briggs Lena laid everything out half a mile down the road. Two deputies started clicking through Sam's one heading toward her workbench. She started her other toward. She scribbled a new page. What's this about, Sheriff? Timeline. Every encounter, arms full. She wasn't running anymore. Briggs rolled a suspicious glance the next morning diner and flicked Lena stood in her garage, staring at the sunrise. Dug into her filing cabinet. Got a tip someone had called invoices and car part catalogs. It was strange black paper like it was a ticket to quiet. Inside were no county ordinance says no delivery class, no phone calls. Everything by anything heavy was clear. Lena scanned yours to an old Lena Torres was poised. Lena's heart. She could almost hear Briggs' voice whistle. Knew damn well her certifications were current. She's a criminal. She kept everything by the away precisely because men like Briggs worked better than threats to They weren't even pretending that's not possible. By mid-afternoon, stepped the tension in town had become renewed in July. Lena pressed against her from every window. Hale's every muttered conversation. She tapped the number into her burner phone. Every averted glance cooperation she kept for emergencies. Even Miss Simple and usually so listening to the hollow ring had left a pie outdoors in the empty shop. Deputies after even pretending to stay safe, dear. Cautious. One of them was opening drawers. This is Ryan. Another was leave Lena Torres filing cabinet. She said. Lena clenched her hand. Sam Keller gave me your number. You have a wall. I think I have something. The smile widened. She hadn't come this far. The kind of pause where you could sat down on the workbench and voluntary. Then go on. But if Ryan had some evidence that the sheriff of Silver Pine then we'd have probable cause fabricating charges. You were right. We found financial obvious to Briggs made her and that real planted evidence mentioned. She manipulated deals all over neutral mask. Working
fine,
the
the
editor,
town
she
now.
said. His purse,
Keep your head
whatever
down.
you need.
Silence.
It's going to break.
She watched
soon.
them
A short,
with a burning
Lena
stare
almost
as they
incredulously
chuckled
through her
Relief
livelihood.
lady
Mixed with
her
something
history.
You realize you
Her
just
sanctuary.
described
The sheriff
stayed
sent
well
a
of the
quick
Rockies,
reply.
pretending to
I'm not
inspect
good at
guessing.
dusty
I'll give
posters
him
on
one
the
more
wall.
chance.
Her voice sharpening.
Classic car shows.
If he
Lena
doesn't,
had
we
never
go
had the
public
time or money
because
to despite everything
after a few tense minutes,
and I'm willing.
one
Lena wasn't
deputy
doing
called out
another
for
long
revenge.
holding a dusty.
She wanted
bomb.
the
Ryan's
sound
tone
shifted
sharper now. Briggs
shambled
over. She needed to make one thing absolutely clear.
They agreed to
she
meet
grabbed
the
her
next
old
bag
voice recorder
in a little
no-name gas station
outside
was
of
a
town.
dead match.
Tonight,
She was going to find
sheriff's
white, no
flakes
uniforms,
and
she was going to look him dead in the eye. She hung up. Briggs said,
"Lena,
sank onto the
I'm not
afraid of you," and stared at the crowding out might have a controlled
as she locked the
violation
on her hands.
Lena felt
Lena's
something
mouth
she had
went dry.
transmissions, the night
That's
dead
not
engines,
mine.
leaky
Power,
radiators.
she said
Not the
immediately.
kind you held in a title. This wasn't
Briggs
just
shook his head slowly.
The kind that came from the cold was now Lena outside.
The
The
sheriff's
sheriff's anyone
office
squatted
leave
at
that
the edge of town. You're already under investigation. Iron crystallizing illegally. Lena parked. She stared at him. For the first time in a long time,
headlights
Lena
off.
Torres.
She could almost hear her father's
the windows
voice, and she
glowed
felt
with
like a
sterile
weapon being
fluorescent.
sharpened.
She was almost
ready.
guessing. This is harassment. She grabbed the voice recorder
She
from
said.
her jacket, flipped it on, and slipped it deep into her pocket. Time to end this. Crossing the street, she moved fast and purposeful. Before her courage could slip, she shoved the heavy door open. The inside smelled like coffee gone cold and fear gone stale. Deputy Clark looked up from the front desk, his smirk already forming. Well, look who. Where's Briggs? Lena cut him off. Clark blinked, thrown for half a second. Then he leaned back, arms crossed, lazy. He's busy. You got a warrant or something? Sweetheart. Lena smiled, slow and deadly. Nope. Just a conversation he's not gonna want to miss. Before Clark could respond, a voice boomed from the back hall. Let her through. Sheriff Conrad Briggs. He stood framed in the hallway, arms loose at his sides, face unreadable except for the hard gleam in his eyes. Lena walked toward him, boots loud against the cracked tile. They faced each other in the narrow hallway, the overhead lights buzzing like a nest of angry wasps. Well, Briggs drawled. The town's newest outlaw. Lena didn't flinch. You framed me. He shrugged. You broke the rules. You stuck your nose where it didn't belong. I fixed a truck, Briggs. You're the one who decided that made me dangerous. Briggs stepped closer, the air between them sparking with invisible electricity. You think you're gonna win? You think some little girl with a wrench and a bad attitude's gonna tear down everything I built? I don't have to tear it down, Lena said calmly. You already did. I'm just shining a light on the wreckage.